The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on Tom's Radio Toronto are entirely those of the hosts, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of Tom's Radio Toronto or its staff. These broadcasts are presented and made public as entertainment and general information only, in the hope that they will be entertaining and informative to listeners. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate in any way any disease or condition or to promote any specific lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice, nor is the information presented necessarily accurate or verifiable.
Good afternoon, Wisdom Show fans. I'm your host, Bruce Gilboard, and we have a chock full of good stuff episode for you today. The Wisdom Show is aired every Friday from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Tom's Radio. That's the trademark of multiculturalism. And we're located at our secret, scroll-laden wisdom cave. And the secret is 3768 Bathurst Street, room 308, North York, Toronto, Ontario. We want you to like our show. We want you to subscribe to our show. And most important, we want you to share our show because we share wisdom here. If you want to participate in our discussion, please call 416-900-5864. So, of course, you're asking, what's the Wisdom Show? What's it all about?
What's it all about?
Thank you very much. So, the Wisdom Show is dedicated to understanding, acquiring, and mastering wisdom to explore how to enrich ourselves and better society. Initially, we survey the world's most famous and ancient book of wisdom, the biblical book of Proverbs. So what's wisdom? Wisdom is the muscle we build to enable greater character, success, and happiness in our lives and those around us. Really, I'm trying to accomplish four things. I'm trying to expose the woke, leftist, anarchist fools who diss biblical literacy from no knowledge of anything. I'm trying to show them wisdom in the Bible. That's number one. Number two, I'm trying to make myself a little wiser. There's a selfish reason. Number three, I'm trying to make the public a little wiser and expose them to biblical literacy. And expose them to the wordplay that comes from the Hebrew, from the holy language, the Hebrew tongue, that is, so far as I understand, most available in Hebrew and less available in other languages due to the double entendre and deeper meaning of other words. The way the book of Proverbs is structured, that the author, the famous author King Solomon, he drags you along in a headlock from chapter 1 to chapter 31, making you wiser each as you go. And we're seeing, or I'm certainly seeing, chapter 1 is slightly, I don't know the word other than juvenile, but slightly lesser. And as you progress further, as you learn more wisdom, it's a deeper book as you progress each chapter. Now, we have a super duper expert today to guide you through chapter 7. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan P. Wellman is my guest on, what is he, on my left? My right, your left? and he will lead us through chapter 7, which is, and don't tell anyone I said it, it's a racy chapter. So we also have a silent guest who will be nameless, but he'll be appearing next week. Ladies and gentlemen, let's open up, and another thing I should have mentioned before. When you look at the book of Proverbs, just go through it in English translation, it's almost gibberish. It's almost irrelevant. When you look at it with a commentary, then it blossoms and flowers out. Then you see the depth in the literature. So we have here a half a dozen commentaries, just a half a dozen books. Each one has several commentaries in it. So we're really bringing you about 24 commentaries, and we're opening up biblical literacy for you, so that next time someone says Bible, it has slavery. I don't want to look at that old relic, and I'm showing you a different story. Share this show with your friends. Try to make them wise. They'll become happier, wealthier, more successful from this show. That's a guarantee. So we open up, now what our style is, we open up the chapter, we read it through in English, then we go back through it slowly and comment on it. Sound fair, Mr. Wellman?
Sure.
You want
You're the boss.
Before we start, do you want to tell us anything about yourself so we can see the human being that I have here?
I'm a Torontonian who is a neighbor of yours, Bruce, and I know we've done a lot of talking over the years about many things besides the Bible.
Bring the microphone to your face.
Okay, thank you. I have no experience in broadcasting. Okay, still have no experience broadcasting. Or in any
But
event.
you're just about as at the same stage as Bruce now. So.
I have several hours more experience.
That's true.
Okay, you got a law practice. What type of law do you practice?
I have a general practice. I do some real estate. I've done some criminal. I've done some family. Done some estate work.
Have
It's
you
a
ever
general
had
practice?
Have you ever had a case that dealt with the content we're going to be dealing with in this chapter? Or
you
come
mean
close to
you
it?
mean cases involving people who are struggling with wisdom and
No.
and knowledge?
Thereof.
or you know what they consider to be what distracts people from wisdom. I
Yeah.
mean, the illusion that they use in the Bible. First of all, I think the illusion that they use throughout Mishle to what
Proverbs.
distracts or Proverbs from distracting people from wisdom is a woman, and they often use the illusion of a harlot or a prostitute. So if you're going to ask me, have I ever had a case where I've had to deal with a prostitute who's been charged with soliciting? Generally, no. Most of the cases, interestingly enough, deal with men who are soliciting prostitutes because that's usually who police are trying to entrap. So it's almost as if the Mishle, this chapter in the Mishle, is warning not so much the harlot or the prostitute of what you're doing is wrong. There's no sort of education for her or what she represents for what she's doing. It's more towards the person that may be tempted, which is interesting because that's how the law is being applied in Canada generally. When there were laws against, there are laws against prostitution. So most of the time, the laws the soliciting laws were being applied to men who were soliciting prostitutes on the street. And usually it was really a traffic issue because people would be driving down the street and stopping and, sort of impeding traffic and calling out to women on the streets, asking prices and things like that. So they were usually picking up the men. Police like to be decoys to pick up men in areas where there were prostitutes and things like that.
I think before
sorry.
we go on, I think we should go into the chapter, read, then come back to the commentary. I think we got a little bit cart before the horse now.
And just to bring this up to modern times, the term prostitute today is known as sex trade workers. So
Sex trade workers.
Adjust
okay.
your microphone, Gord.
Prostitution is no longer the term prostitute is no longer politically correct. to
Right.
say. They call it sex trade worker.
Let's read the story. I'm happy to read it because my damn good broadcasting voice. So you're with me? I'll read it in English. We'll go through it carefully. Then we'll come back and go through the commentary. Okay? A new chapter always starts with in Hebrew Shema B'ni, behold my son, etc. And typically that's how this starts. My child, heed my words and store up my commandments with yourself. Heed my commandments and live, and heed my Torah as the apple of your eyes. Bind them on your fingers, inscribe them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding a friend. That they may safeguard you from a forbidden woman. from a foreign woman who makes her words glib. For I have looked out from the window of my house, through my curtain, and I saw among the fools, I discerned among the youths, a lad who lacked an understanding heart. Passing through the marketplace, near her corner, and he strode toward her house. In the twilight, as daylight wanes, in the blackness of night and darkness. Then behold, a woman approached him, with the nakedness of a harlot, and with siege in her heart. She is tumultuous and rebellious. Her feet do not dwell at home. Sometimes in the courtyard, sometimes in the streets, she lurks at every corner. She seized him and kissed him. She thrust forth her face and said to him, I had vowed to bring peace offerings, and today I have fulfilled my vow. This is why I went out toward you, to seek your countenance, and I have found you. I have decked my bed with spreads, or blankets of superior braid, Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloe, and cinnamon. Come, let us sate ourselves with love until the morning. Let us rejoice with acts of love. For my husband is not at home. He has gone on a distant journey. He has taken the money pouch. With him, he will come home at the appointed time. She sways him with her abundant talk. She thrusts him astride with her glibness of her lips. She follows her excuse me. He follows her unsuspectingly, like an ox to the slaughter, rushing like a venomous snake to discipline the foolish one, until an arrow splits his liver. He is like a bird hurrying to a trap, unaware that his life will be lost. So now, children, listen to me, and heed the words of my mouth. Do not incline your heart in her ways. Do not stray in her pathways, for she has felled many victims. The number of her slain is huge. Her house is the way to the grave, descending to the chambers of death. Rather subtle and calming, don't you think? So now, as per the program, we go through it verse by verse, word by word, and we take about 40 minutes to what we're trying to do is show depth in text, wordplay in Hebrew, double entendres, etc., and show that there's biblical literature is nothing to brush aside, and the challenge is there's nothing in English like this. That's the challenge. Okay, so Alan, please begin the comments.
Well, in the first sentence, first verse, we have an interesting dichotomy of what the father is instructing the son. He starts off by saying, keep my words, and he uses the word, I'm not sure if you want.
Yeah, just go ahead.
You have the word shemor, which is keep in Hebrew, and amorai, words, and then the next part of the sentence goes, depending on the translation, hide or keep my commandments with you. So there's a dichotomy in that first sentence between two things. Words, amorai, and mitzvosai, which are commandments. And in one of the commentaries that I saw, he made a distinction between these two words, and he said that there's a difference between commandments and words. Commandments are things that are general directions and practical directions, which require obedience. And words are more general and philosophical and ethical insights that one should have. So the father in this sentence is instructing the son on two things. You should be philosophically aware of the correct things in life, and you should also know what the proper practical rules and directions in life are.
I got from from another place but uses the same wordplay. Imri, words are typically from a mother as the loving, guiding light, and commandments are typically from the father as the law. Wait till your father gets home.
I would even go further, and he's in a way taking ownership of the commandments, using my commandments, but that shows that the commandments of the Torah, of the Bible, are God's commandments, they're divine commandments, and he's showing the child that he's taken them on himself, and he's following the commandments, and that the child also should follow the commandments.
Who's the father? Is the father God? Is the father Solomon? Is the father? Is this a parable of a father and a son? Who's the father?
I believe.
And it's multiple may be the answer.
I believe it's Solomon to Solomon's child.
Okay, fine. Okay,
Would you say that we're getting to a point in the Proverbs where there's a breakdown, not a breakdown, a breakdown in the sense of what wisdom may consist of? So they're talking about here two aspects of wisdom, as you call it, say the mother knowledge, if you want to call it philosophy, mother knowledge, and the father knowledge or father wisdom being, the rules. And so they're saying these are the two things that you should be cautious of. And
in the earlier chapters, they also went into knowledge and understanding. Really, what we should be doing is, they say Eskimos have 50 different phrases for describing snow. Mm-hmm. Really, we should be listing 50 different phrases for describing stupid. And its counterpart.
And wisdom, intelligence.
Yeah, and its counterpart. So to do it right, that's probably the third time I pass through it. I'll get to that.
And please refrain from a term like Eskimos. It's Inuit.
Man, oh man, I blow you left and right. Cut the tape. I apologize. Where's the door? Okay, let's go on to the next.
Okay,
next
so on
passage.
the next line we have, again, it's emphasis on some of these points. We have keep my commandments and live. And then, again, another breakdown. Keep my commandments and live. And my translation is, and my teachings as an apple of your eye.
That's an old expression. He's the apple of your eye, or the apple of her eye, or something.
Right. Is that the translation that you had there also, the apple of your eye?
Yeah, apple of your eyes, plural.
Right. So again, we have in the Hebrew breaks it down. I would say it's a breakdown in types of things. We have Shmor Mitzvosai, again, guard my commandments, whereas in the previous verse it was Shmor Amorai, which was, guard my words. So now it's sort of elevating the mitzvosai also to something that must be watched, but they're adding the point that if you watch them, if you keep them, you will live. And I think living doesn't just mean living in the physical sense, it means in the spiritual and in the growth sense, because wisdom doesn't just mean that you grow physically or survive physically. It's always about nurturing your inner soul and your inner life. So whenever they talk about life in Proverbs, I think they're talking about the spiritual life. Would you agree with that?
I'm not sure. I don't see where it says that.
I think that's a beautiful thought.
It says Shmor Mitzvosai V'Etyeh.
Etyeh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Etyeh is and live.
Live, right.
Okay.
So living does not mean simply physical life.
Okay.
You're saying that, and you don't seem very convinced by that.
I don't see it as a accept or deny. It's not. A lot of these, it's easy to say that's cute. Let's go on. Like really, that's all I think. See that as the standard approach. That's cute. Let's move on.
I think you can take it both ways.
Yeah.
Live physically and live spiritually.
The apple of your eye captures my attention more, by the way, because one of the if you want to go.
Well, before we get to the apple of my eye, Torah T. Now, Torah T is translated as it's not neither of the translations I have refer to it as Torah. One refers to it as teachings,
Yeah.
and the other one refers to it as my instructions.
I know
So
so
again-
much. But in Hebrew in Israel, Torah Tabayit is home economics, is instructions for the house.
Okay.
So I'm okay with. Apparently, driving instruction. Like, apparently, it's commonly used that way.
Okay, so but they're using a lot of words, like you said about the Inuit, that they have 50
Yeah.
words for snow.
Yeah.
We're getting into a lot of the words that they're highlighting that refer to various ways of knowledge, knowing,
Yeah.
learning about it, the teachings, and that's what they're telling us about.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go, and then it goes on to say, Koshreim al etzbo techa, which means bind it to your finger. And again, the binding to your finger, I'll take that as a way of remembering, like many things.
Oh, put a string around your finger to remember.
Yeah, put a string around your finger to remember.
Yeah.
Like most of the things that we do what we do with, a lot of the commandments that the Jews have are to remind us that there's a God and that
Yeah.
there's, that there are commandments and that we should be living wisely. So Orthodox Jews will wear tzitzit to remind them of, of God, so they don't stray, and they will have a mezuzah on their door when they walk in.
Keep as
so that
part of the
they-
story.
Yes. All those things are to remind us. So
Do you think that, bind them upon thy fingers is alluding to, someone who lays tefillin?
That was the first thing that jumped to my
that
mind.
jumps
Yeah.
to your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, another thing to help remind us. And kosvem al luach libecha, and tie it and write it on the tablet of your heart. Which again, you can allude to the tefillin, because we put one that's very near your heart and one that's very near your head.
Except the sentence, the fingers and the heart is the same one.
Right.
It's the same device. Is a separate device. The head. If he had said something about the head, then your point would be solid.
Right. But I think what we're getting at here are the two things, sort of the two aspects of life. The physical action, so the fingers represents the hand, which is the physical action.
Oh, okay.
And the heart is sort of the emotional action. So
Nice.
they're saying
Beautiful.
get
Nice,
involved all the way.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Not me. I didn't say that.
Right.
Malcolm said that. I'm just expounding on what he said. Trust me. I'm
We
not
we
that...
just got a reference. The Malbim's one of the commentaries, and he was in Prague in the mid 1800s, and a particularly beloved commentary because he's in the era of trains and telegraphs and photography, and he had some understanding of technology.
Beautiful.
Okay, Gord, everything we do here is beautiful. Okay, we go on.
And then we say, in the next verse is, say to wisdom. Again, it's sort of the alliterating. When you talk about the alliteration in the Hebrew, we've referred, the word amor has appeared, in the two previous lines. I'm sorry, it didn't appear in the two. It appeared in the first one, so we're bringing it back here in the third.
Well, it's a
line.
train of thought.
Yes. Amor lechochma achoti. Say to wisdom. If that's what chochma is. What is
Yeah.
translated?
Yeah.
Translated as
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yeah, for sure.
And he says, achoti, you're my achoti at. You are my sister. Umoda labina tikra, and call understanding your friend bina. So again, we get a breakdown in the two ways of understanding, chachma and bina.
Yeah.
So you see every line so far we have like two. There's a dichotomy.
It's interesting, Sensino, the translation that I'm using, and call understanding thy kinswoman.
What
So
the hell?
they're both feminine. We start with sister and kinswoman.
If you have to use the
Oh,
King's
interesting.
English, if your translation is the King's English, dump that. Just dump it.
Which are both feminine traits.
Right. So that's interesting that you say that, Gord, because I guess what they're setting us up for are the type of female allusions that are going to be contrasted with the female allusion later that makes us stray. Well done.
That's very interesting.
So the sister image and the kinswoman image, which represent, how we should be bound to wisdom and knowledge, are good symbols. And now we're going to get into the next line. Lishmorcha, you should watch out. Meisha zara, from the strange woman, or as it's called here, the alien woman.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not alien, because we think of aliens, things that were on Star Trek, right? Those alien.
Very
women
good
also
point. You've really earned your pay.
always drawing Captain Kirk, right, from the ships. And
What he refers to here is not his spouse.
right.
That's what he mean. But no, I thought foreign meant from another country.
But
not
it's really
necessarily.
interesting how they set this up with sister and kinswoman, and then differentiate from
Yeah.
an alien woman or a strange woman. How there's a clear separation between these two types of women.
I think there's an assumption that you know your sister, at least at this level.
you love your sister.
You're more familiar with your sister than you are with your spouse, and certainly level 3 is the foreign woman.
Right.
I think that's what's going on. In previous chapters, they make the reference to the foreign woman in previous chapters. Same with the wisdom and knowledge and data and so on.
And also, Isha Zara
Yeah.
versus Avoda.
Yeah.
Avoda Zara, idol worship. Isha Zara is, it's something that is not right.
It's funny language to the way no one would ever use that expression, Isha Zara. No one would. Okay, let's go to the next
Okay.
verse.
So, ki b'chalon beiti, and again, from the window of my house. Now he gets into a little, a bit of a tale. Ki b'chalon beiti, from the window of my house, be'ad esh gabi nishkofti. And those are difficult words, and they are translated as, in my book, as I looked out through my lattice.
Well, curtain.
And you have looked out through the curtain.
I don't know what the hell a lattice is. I assume it's a curtain.
It's something that is obstructing the view slightly, but not entirely.
Oh, it's not necessarily a curtain.
It's like it could be like say 5th century screen.
At the top
Okay.
of your fence, they put lattice.
Oh,
so it
okay.
obstructs, but
Ah.
it doesn't completely block
Okay,
it.
fine.
Well said,
Okay.
Lord.
This is a man who knows his lattices.
Well,
Okay.
Can you do you
he knows lattices. He knows sex trade workers.
This is
He's like
I'm getting out of here.
do you find like if you think back to Solomon's father,
right.
David, who saw from a distance a lady?
Oh my God. Very good.
You can't. I'm not saying.
No, you brought it to the table.
But-
It's a decent reference. What we do with it, I don't know, but it's a
You have
nice
to be
reference.
careful with that.
Yeah. Our danger here is we shoehorn in our own ideas and the text doesn't say it. And I don't give a damn about our own ideas. I want to hear what the text is.
But we're sincere and we're thinking these things, and everybody thinks these things, and
No, what I'm saying is there's such a thing as counterfeit wisdom. I bring to the table counterfeit. The text brings out the good stuff. That's the danger, relatively speaking, as I see it. Mm-hmm. And this we see Superman and Lois Lane is, like enough. Let's hear what the words have to say.
So some of the commentators describe this verse about the wise man seeing through the window, but through a lattice or through a curtain, as meaning that the wise man, even though there's an obstruction, can see something clearly, and he will be describing what he sees clearly next. I thought that's a nice interpretation of it, because why do they throw in the business about the curtain? Why does it not just say, and I looked out my window and this is what I saw? Why do you have the added feature of a lattice or a curtain?
So the lattice.
Would obstruct.
it's an
part of the
obstruction,
view.
but not a complete obstruction.
Okay, fine.
So there's got to be an explanation why he describes it that way.
I read something in my preparation a week or two ago about, I don't remember, frankly.
Well, thank you for that. That's the conversation.
It doesn't get much better than that.
Moving right
Cut
along.
tape. Okay. Take Alan off the guest list, right? Okay, let's.
Okay,
it's time for a break. Okay, I can get out. I can get out of this embarrassing situation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a word from our sponsor. Will I kill him?
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
We're back in chapter 7 of the book of Proverbs where my guest is pummeling me, and I will take revenge. Alan, please continue.
Okay, we're at verse number 7, and I'll read the Hebrew. I'll read the English first.
The less Hebrew, for this audience, the less Hebrew, the better.
Well, I think some of the Hebrew is important. So I'm gonna do the English, and I'll come back. And it says, in English, it says, "And I saw among the simpletons, I discerned among the youths, a boy lacking in self-disciplining heart." Okay.
Sure.
And that's an interesting phrase.
There's 3 levels.
Disciplining heart. He's lacking a self-disciplining heart. First of all, he starts off by describing him as a na'ar, which is like
man.
a boy, young man.
A teenager.
It's also, but generally when we think of the word na'ar, we think of someone that's sort of unsophisticated, maybe even uneducated.
With the Yiddish, is it Yiddish, Narishkeit?
Yes.
So how do you translate Narishkeit? Fools?
Yeah, foolishness.
Foolishness, yeah.
Yeah, and
But-
nar is a fool in Yiddish too.
But I don't think it's a fool in this case because
No, I think a simpleton is the word that is a kind word.
someone who isn't completely mature yet.
Right.
So that's the teenager.
But what I want,
More than a teenager, perhaps.
that the phrase in Hebrew that they have, in English is described as lacking a self-disciplined heart. In Hebrew, it comes up chasar, which means lacking, lave, heart. You can take back to the third line where he instructs his son to keep the commandments and to write them on the sort of the scroll or the blackboard of his heart. So here's a guy that's missing what should be written in his heart. So he's missing that wisdom.
And Sonsino gets a little juicier.
Right.
And he refers to the thoughtless ones. And he says, the teacher is not concerned at the moment with the vicious who set out with the intention of gratifying their lust. So, this is setting up for the sex trade worker, so to say. And it goes on to say, his aim is to rescue young men who lack an understanding of the danger which besets them and walk into the trap laid for them, the youths. So it's beautiful.
He's an innocent on the street corner.
Is he a victim?
Well, he could be. If he doesn't have wisdom, he's going to be.
I think largely, I don't know if this is the whole picture. I don't know if this is a warning to fools or sarcasm. There's a previous few pages back, they referred to a similar thing with a prostitute and so on, and they say her lips were dripping with honey. And there was another phrase, I thought, is he sarcastic? Is he appealing to fools to say, oh, lips dripping with it, that's the girl I want? Or is it sarcastic that the teacher will pick up and the fool won't get? So this one seems more serious than the allusion a few chapters earlier.
Well, Isha Zara has an agenda, and she wants to attract in the fool.
She's clearly the aggressor here.
And a Na'ar, someone who is unexperienced in life, would be easy victim to such.
She's prey.
He's
prey.
Sure.
Okay, let's go forward. Alan, take it away.
Right. Crossing the street next to her corner.
Mine is just passing through the marketplace.
Okay. So we're talking about the young lad passing through the marketplace next to her corner, and he walks on the way to her house.
There's three levels. It's this. I speak with semicolons since I've been studying the Book of Proverbs. This is 3 semicolon levels.
He's getting deeper into this trap.
Into the pit. Okay.
So you mean, what are the 3 corners? That he's walking on the street, so he's probably taking a street.
No, pass through the marketplace, near her corner, strode toward her house.
Right.
You don't get any added value from each of them, except what Gord said, it's a deeper into the pit.
Right, okay. And it's as if he's like in the wrong side of town. He knows he's in the wrong side of town, the simpleton.
Well, you just go back and say, the next thing is in the twilight. There's even 4 levels.
Right, okay.
Absolutely.
And then it says, as daylight wanes, there's 5 levels. And then in the blackness of night.
Right.
This guy's had every warning.
So this poor youth is, in a dangerous area amongst a dangerous woman who is in her marketplace corner. It's her domain, not his. And it's poor Bocher. And then it's twilight. It's the waning of the day, the evening, and now it's the blackness of night and darkness. Wow.
See, I would
He
love
doesn't
to.
have a chance.
I would love to learn if I had an English major who said I can show you several other famous pieces of English literature where they do 6 or 7 expressions to make it. I'm just not aware, but I would love to see that because I think this is. I'm under the impression this is extreme and elegant and intense and deeper than anything else yet. But maybe I'm wrong.
This poor youth
Yeah.
is getting
He's circling the
deeper
drain.
and deeper down where he's not going to have a chance.
Story of my youth.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's sort of like, the person, the narrator here is like telling a story. It's almost like a ghost story. And he's going, and he went on her street, and then he went by her house, and it was getting evening, and it was getting even darker, and it was even night. And he
He's setting the scene.
right. And then, behold, Vehine, behold, that's the Hebrew, behold, a woman was coming towards him. And
Let me finish the sentence.
my translation, the nakedness of a harlot with her heart besieged.
Okay, I've got some. Then behold, a woman approached him with the nakedness of a harlot and with siege in her heart. So then I don't know what the behold tells us.
Well, suddenly she
Oh,
appears.
suddenly. Okay, fine.
Right.
And so
That's part of the story.
Right.
So Sino comes right out and says, with the attire of a harlot. So
Oh.
she's dressed in garb
Oh.
that is provocative.
The nakedness of a harlot is
she looks like a prostitute.
there's
Not
no
that there's
subtlety.
anything wrong with it, but she
There's no subtlety here.
there's no subtlety.
Yeah, so in mine, it also, in this translation, it says decked out.
Oh man!
Decked out like a harlot.
Again, I gotta
And
tell.
unitsurat lev, they translate as wily of heart.
I gotta tell
I
you,
like that widely.
when I was a student in New York, I was in Times Square, and this is like 40 years ago when it was a vicious neighborhood. I'm walking down the sidewalk. I've got to keep on. I probably had a tie on and a jacket. Looked like a cute religious college boy. There were four hookers on the sidewalk. One's wearing a tiger suit. One's wearing a leopard suit. One's wearing something. And then they're saying, "Hey, baby, come on, baby." And I'm thinking, which one has less diseases? The tiger suit, the lion suit, the leopard suit?
Sometimes there's too much information.
right. Okay, let's go on.
And it says,
I have.
she is volatile, my translation again, she is volatile and rebellious.
Yeah, I got tumultuous.
Yeah, and her feet do not abide in her house. What a way to describe someone. And her feet do not abide in her house.
She's not cooking and cleaning like she should be. I think that's the point.
I think you're
we
right.
we translate it. She is riotous and rebellious, lacking the staidness of a respectable woman.
Okay, we painted the picture quite. What we're doing with the different commentaries. We're elaborating on the painting of the picture. This is all artwork as I see it.
Absolutely.
Had I had more time and wherewithal, I would have Googled up medieval paintings on the Book of Proverbs and see because this is a juicy scene. I wouldn't be surprised if someone did it. I just got to do
And the
it.
commentators varied widely as well. So we're getting a different...
I don't think they vary widely. I think they add a little spin. But I don't think it's a wide difference.
Some guard their tongues and others come right out and say
Oh,
as
okay,
it
very
is.
good. Okay. You used Soncino, we should mention, 1500 Spanish, and I don't know what else to say about him.
That's beautiful.
Okay, fine. Okay, Alan, you're leading?
Yeah. Pam bachutz upam brachovot. Sometimes she is outside in the streets. And I mean, sometimes she's outside, sometimes she's in the streets. So she's everywhere. And she's at every corner, she lies in wait. Oh, just a predator.
What's the point of saying palm twice?
I guess it shows that she's just everywhere. Pam bachutz, pam brachovot.
And also,
Sometimes-
Rehovot and Chutz are pretty much similar. Sometimes, is palm sometimes?
Yeah.
Sometimes she's out and sometimes she's out in the street. Like I don't see much of a distinction. I see it repeated twice, but not much of a distinction. Unless we nail down Rehovot and Chutz. Because I just don't see
Or
it.
they explain the Rehovot here in this translation as squares.
Yeah.
So sometimes she's in the streets and sometimes she's in the squares.
Well,
And then
so
they
the
go,
square is
"Beitzel
more- the
kol-"
square is more
And then
populated.
Beitzel kol pina terov, and she lurks at every corner. And pina is corner, so that's a good way
Oh.
of translating it. So it means that she's here, there, and everywhere, just tempting
Young
whoever,
lads.
young lads. And she probably has a list of customers that she's already tempted. And remember, I just so we don't lose focus here, we're really talking about an allusion to sort of the ideas that draw us away from wisdom. Not so much. We're not talking about really a physical hooker, but he's using the.
I'm not so sure about that. I'm really not so sure about that.
That's,
Oh, well, excuse me.
Well,
No,
yes,
I'm not so sure that unless you can show me something that says this is an allusion to avoid those things that keep you away from wisdom. If you can show me the fine, but I think it's actually talking about avoid hookers,
Well, we'll
street sex trade workers.
yes. Okay, so let's finish this, and then I'll come
Yeah.
back to that point because
Okay.
I think that's an interesting point. I don't think you take this literally, but that's you
It
know,
can be both.
well, everything can be both. Yes, that's true. I think they'd be spending a lot of it's a lot of time to tell people to stay away from hookers. I think what they're talking about is something much deeper than that.
Lust and licentiousness.
Well,
and
yes, anything that can draw you away from wisdom. So
Correct.
it can be just like even ideas, as you might say, though I don't agree with that. You might say like, what you talk about the leftists before or something. You said something about
Woke anarchists.
Woke
Woke
anarchists.
yeah.
Okay, you probably would. That would be something. Equivalent to ideas that are tempting to some, but are really just some riotous, comparable to some woman with lipstick that tempts young.
I think you're
simpletons.
shoehorning in an idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Unless you can show me black and white in the text that says that, I
Wait, you
don't
think that
buy
black
it.
and white, they're going to say this is an illusion.
Yeah.
No, they
For
don't
sure.
talk. The whole what's it called? It's called the Hebrew word is
Mishlei.
yeah, what's that? Illusions.
Riddles also. It's also riddles. But it's a lot of words.
They're not talking in directly. They are talking in illusions, so you can draw meanings on.
I think
every
it's
level.
talking
If you
about-
want to take the most
I don't think it's talking
superficial
about
level-
prostitutes. It's talking about washing machine repairmen. I have as much evidence for that point as you have
No,
for
I
your
don't- I
point.
don't think so. I think that the whole book is about wisdom and how to keep wisdom and how to avoid ideas that are not wise. And they're giving the idea. They're telling you there are things that you may think are wise that will lead you down that path. They start the first 4 lines of the chapter talking about wisdom and how to watch yourself and how to guard yourself. And then he starts talking about simpletons. And how they can be lured by, harlots. Why do you think he draws that illusion?
Because being
I mean, look at
lured by dog catchers wouldn't work.
Well, I'm not the only one that says this. I
Oh,
mean,
so that's
somebody
something.
write-
If you just show it to me, then I'll be persuaded. But right
Okay,
now,
I'll show. Should I
Yeah.
show it to you now, or should I show it to you at the end?
But if I can just
That's your
interject,
decision,
we
yeah.
can't, and I think this is to Bruce's point,
Yeah.
we can't deny the fact that yes, there's a macro idea here that lust and licentiousness are something that can pull you away from wisdom. However, the Bible is going into detail about the specifics of this particular prostitute as being the lust element that is going to pull you away. So the Bible's being very specific.
it's not even
I'm
seduction.
gonna
It's
tell you
something
what
else.
The Malbim says.
Go ahead.
Okay, we
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about,
okay.
Here's the translation when a few lines before when we talked about the strange woman. He says, "The strange woman denotes anyone except his own wife, even if she is of his people. The alien woman is a foreigner who generally has to go to greater lengths to attract. She has to make her words smooth. Figuratively, the strange woman again represents alien philosophies, of which there are 2 degrees. One could conceivably be married or integrated into Torah vision, while the other is irredeemably alien, heretical, but employs all the techniques of logic to allure the intellect."
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
So now
referring to a foreign ideology. Okay, fair enough. Okay. He gives credence to the washing machine repairman thesis. Okay, fine.
But let's move along in,
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
Well,
in the
because
details.
we talked about
Yeah.
that before because we were contrasting that between the sister and the kinswoman, and how certain ideas should be bound to you like that, and you should avoid the strange woman, right?
The strange ideology.
Right. So that
Okay.
he didn't say the strange woman; he said the strange woman because he had
But
already got into
didn't
the
what you read
poetry.
the Malbim referred to?
Yeah,
I took ideology out of it.
yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Not just ideology, philosophy.
What's the
Philosophy.
what's the difference?
Well,
One's a fancier
Alan,
word.
move on. The next line is the climax.
okay, the climax. Okay.
Okay.
Keep your pants on.
We're gonna have a rough time with Gordon next week.
Okay, what line are we up to? She takes hold of him and kisses him. Brazenly, she says to him, let's keep going. I had to bring peace offerings today, and I paid my vows. So, how do you get that she takes hold of him? I like the Hebrew, v'hechazika bo, she grabbed hold of him with strength, v'noshkala, and kissed him. He'eza ponai, and she brazenly said to him. So she's quite the
Hussy.
yeah.
I told you,
Take charge.
don't go out with girls like that.
Reminds me of that Kink song, Lola.
Yeah.
I quoted Bob Dylan last week. We should have the lyric with better preparation. Bring the song lyrics, okay? She walks like a woman and talks like a man.
Lola, from the time that it was written until today's environment, the whole time has changed from a social perspective. But there's quite a dichotomy here, how she goes from kissing him, which is, let's say, a prohibitive act for someone who's a stranger that you don't know and you're not in a relationship,
Right.
to talking to him about peace offerings or bringing offerings to God.
She's perfuming the area. Look how good I am. And by the way, I paid all my bills at the bank today.
Well, this goes back to what the Malbim said, that some people will use the Torah and twist the Torah to inveigle you into what they're doing. So she's trying to show, hey, I'm not a strange woman. I know about, peace offerings. I'm okay. And this interpreter, Rashi, says that she's talking about a peace offering to let him know that she's preparing a great feast, because the peace offering is something that you can eat.
Right, and
Oh.
that would further entice. He's got a kiss. She's dressed seductively, and there's meat in the household to devour. Maybe that's
Steak.
Sign me up.
A nice brisket, and I got a nice brisket in the oven.
no. Maybe that's a metaphor that there's something to devour. I don't know, and I'm not saying, but it's.
Let's say this is too sweaty and hot for me. Let's take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
gentlemen, we are back with the concept of sharing wisdom with our friends and subscribing. And what else do we do? Subscribe, share, send,
And enjoy the Bible.
and enjoy the Bible. Thank you very much. So, Alan, please, you decide, Alan, if you want to wrap it up in the next 5-7 minutes, or you want to go another few verses. Your decision.
Right. Well, let's keep going, since Gord's having a great time here. And go to verse number 15. We just talked about how she smothered him in kisses and then told him about her peace offerings that she had, which is a sacrifice involving meat that one partakes in with others and eats.
It's also worth noting this takes place in Jerusalem.
Oh, right. Very good.
Yeah.
And because the peace offering had to be eaten in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
So verse 15, therefore I've come out towards you to look for you, and I've found you. So she becomes familiar with him in that way. Again, then she says, I bedecked my couch with covers, with superior braidwork from Egypt.
Before you go to the covers, you've got to
Right.
say, having tempted him with food, she proceeds to suggest additional allurements.
Right.
Well, the perfume on the blankets. Apparently, that's hot stuff.
Right. And I think even the allusion to Egypt, Egypt's always been known as the place where they were in the depths of depravity.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Well, yes.
Egypt is Las Vegas.
Right. The Hebrew for Egypt is Mitzrayim, which means the
Ra.
40th level of sort of
No,
depravity.
the Ra in Mitzrayim is bad.
Right. So anyway, so she's letting him know, hey, listen, I got what today might be, I don't know what would be considered something sensual. I have
fur?
French perfume on my from Pigalle or somewhere on my couch, and wow. So I fanned my couch with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Well, yeah. Again, very sensual stuff. She's obviously trying
Oh, she's
to...
a pro.
Right. She's trying to seduce him. Can we use that word?
This is something. I think it's something different than seduction. I think it's a greater. It's a higher level of anger. What am I trying to say? I think it's something greater than seduction. Seduction has an innocence in my mind. This is like seduction. This is a business thing. It's all.
Well, for her, it may be, but for him, it's a seduction. It's carnal. It's
Okay.
Right.
And the next line gives it away.
Okay.
And then she says, then she is very forward young lass. Come, let us take our fill of love-making until morning. Let us enjoy ourselves with amorous embraces.
So, Bruce,
I can't take it anymore. Okay, so I don't know.
There's not much you can say about this, because whoever is telling their son the story and using this woman, the idea of a temptress, as an allusion of foreign ideas is really getting involved in this tale a little too much. But I guess that was the point, to let his son know that this was how tempting these foreign ideas can be. For the man, verse 19, for the man is not at home, so she's married.
Yeah.
Even worse.
this is adultery, which is a sin punishable by
Peace offerings.
death.
He has gone on a long journey. Don't worry. The man of the house is gone. So, they're just like layering the evil of this situation. He has taken the bag of money with him. I'm not sure what that's all about.
That he's away for a long time.
Right.
If he
okay.
took $5, he's at the corner. If he took $500, he's staying away for a couple of days.
Okay. I guess maybe she's hinting to the fact that I have no money either, by the way.
That's not bad.
he has taken the bag of money with him. On the appointed day, he will come home. Oh, don't worry, he's not going to be home for a long time. So it just keeps going. Then it goes on to say, it's very racy. She swayed him with all her talk, the simpleton, and with the smooth of her lips she entices him. Then the next verse, 22, he follows her immediately, as an ox goes to the slaughter, and as a viper to the chastisement of a fool.
So that's basically saying if you thought he was holding back and he was a good boy, he's embraced her completely.
Originally
he
he's
has
a good boy.
succumbed.
He's
to,
a good boy. He's a good boy before he crosses the street. Now is he a victim now? I believe he's a victim.
like an ox that goeth to the slaughter. He's done.
Yeah. Okay.
And this is also an interesting description. Until, verse 23, until an arrow splits his liver as a bird hastens to a snare, and he does not know that it is at the cost of his life. And again, life, as I said earlier, when we have the word life, it's really soul, isn't it? It's nafsho.
Correct.
Oh, is it
Hebrew-
nafsho?
Yes, the Hebrew is nafsho, soul. So we're talking about, again, the spiritual life is being dissipated in the situation. Again, this...
But
Yes.
you can take it to the physical level again because he's just been engaged in adultery, and the cost for adultery is death.
For sure.
I got a question for you, Talmidei Chachamim. We're referencing the bird and the snake. Is a nefesh referring to an animal here? That this nefesh?
The snake is nachash.
No, but I'm referring to an animal. Do you ever see where nefesh refers to an animal?
Right.
You
Yes,
see what
I
I'm
agree,
getting
yeah.
at? That I'm wondering if that's why they're using the
Nefesh
nefesh.
as opposed to neshama.
Oh, that's
Okay.
Okay, fine. I'm putting another
Maybe,
spin on it. I'm shoehorning in that's what I'm trying to do. Okay.
And then let's complete this. Number 24, verse 24. And now, O children, listen to me. Listen to me and pay heed to the words of my mouth.
Was that the phrase
It's nice that
before?
it moves from child to children now. Like now the message
Oh.
is going like even bigger, right?
Oh, very good.
Well, we started off with Beni and now we're Bonim already.
Oh, very
So
good.
he's like lecturing not just this guy, he's going like, listen, all of you out there, everybody in TV land, listen to me.
Yeah.
Akshivu. Verse 25. Let not your heart veer off into her ways. Again, watch your heart. Do not go astray in her paths.
Okay, so I see two things say the same things. So I don't. That's where I would look for the deeper meaning. What do you get out when he refers to gold and then silver? What's he mean by gold and silver? Here he's referring to heart to her ways and stray in the pathways. That's the question.
I think at this point we can summarize and say if you succumb to lust and the prostitute and Arias, you will that ultimately leads to death, a spiritual death, and adultery has the consequence of a physical death. And as wisdom to a child, the father says, be aware, have wisdom, be aware that this evil is out there trying to ensnare you. And I think that's what this whole chapter is saying.
Let's finish up the one or two more. Alan, finish
I
up.
have to-
Big
I have to
finish.
start to. Okay. For verse 26. For many stricken victims has she felled, and a mighty host are all her slain. And verse 27, the last verse. Her house is the way to the netherworld, going down to the chambers of death.
Okay, yeah, I'm scared. Okay,
That's it. I'm not.
I'm outta here.
I'm not gonna see these workers or whatever you call them anymore.
That's it. I'm
Or
sober for me
don't-
too.
Don't
No
say
more.
any more because that infers that you have in the past.
So it's finished for me.
But
Okay.
that was pretty heavy as far as Bible goes.
So next week, ladies and gentlemen, we have a mystery guest who will be who will present our guest presenter next week, and today we say, what do we do? Share it with your friends. What else do we do? Save it and subscribe, and tune in next week. And
For a continuation of this
For a
wonderful book of Proverbs.
chapter, get a copy with a commentary of chapter before we mass market sell the Wisdom Show version, and special thanks to Owen for his trusty hand, ladies and gentlemen. We are wise. Gord, are you wiser now?
I'm just being around you and listening. I'm wiser.
Alan
Yeah.
too. Okay. Good night, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody.